Welcome back to the Tremors-a-thon! This franchise certainly feels special to be able to get a third movie, despite how Universal treated the last one. A lot of love and passion from both the creators and fans kept it alive, allowing them to see what would have been the third and final installment of their trilogy. Production was greenlit in August 2000, with a lot of the same production tech we're used to seeing, minus a few complications regarding one of the monsters we'll be seeing. I will say though, if there was one thing I wish they could have improved on above all else, it's the poster art. Seriously, I can understand using the same sort of design, which is the main cast above ground while the monsters are coming from below. What I don't get is why they never use the actual graboids. Sure, first one has a tentacle to hide what it's attached to, but the second movie poster has graboids that don't even look like the damn creatures. More like the monsters from the 90s Langoliers miniseries. And this poster just reuses the same damn tentacle from the first poster. Even I'm not one to reuse assets like that. Anyway, it's only natural that for your grand finale, you gotta take it back to the place where it all started. Just don't expect either Kevin Bacon or Fred Ward to come back. Instead, going forward, it's all about Michael Gross. To think that the guy who started out as a mild conspiracy theorist with a gun-collecting hobby would go on to become more unhinged with how he handles the monsters of this series. The kind of horror from the first movie is pretty much sidelined for action, and I really want to see how that turns out, knowing all that. So let's go back to perfection and see if they can stick the landing. We open in El Chaco, Argentina, where a TV news crew from Ocho Television has gathered to meet someone they'll be filming. And who else would it be but...
First rule of engagement, know your enemy. Second rule, know where to engage him.
I guess the Argentinians heard what happened in Mexico and needed his services for their graboid problem. Although I'd be concerned if giant Precambrian worms had found their way onto another continent. Sounds to me like we have a graboid epidemic on our hands. And apparently this is the third sighting in the last 11 years, and it's become 6 shriekers? How have they not overrun everyone by this point? In any case, he goes over how he lured the things away from civilian populations and have set up this kill zone to start exterminating. And oh lordy, here they come. A whole crap ton of them. The news crew panics, but thankfully, Bert has the proper tools this time. A large double-barrel anti-aircraft gun. And nope, this isn't a prop. It's real, and even Steve Wilson tested it before Michael Gross got to. So, like before, they used CGI for the shriekers. However, due to technical issues, they couldn't use the ones from the previous film again. They had to make new digital models from the physical ones they still had, which were handled by Anal Productions. I hope I said that right. And somehow, Bert managed to kill all 69 shriekers, according to Dead Meat's kill count. Hot damn, you are the king.
Any questions?
So now we transition over to Perfection, Nevada, which now only has a population of 5 according to the sign. Yet it's also become a graboid tourist attraction. The film crew rebuilt the entire town from scratch. However, filming this time around took place in Valencia, California, rather than in Lone Pine. Anyway, Bert's come back to see that someone's attempting to sell land. He ends up running into Miguel, once again played by Tony Gennaro, who explains that real estate agents want to cut up the valley into parts to sell.
That'll be a cold day in hell.
Oh, be careful what you wish for. Apparently, he's installing an anti-graboid barrier around his compound using concrete. I suppose it's fair for him to do this, knowing we have giant worm infestations every now and then, going into Walter Chang's old store, now refurbished, and with graboid merchandise.
Merchandising! Merchandising! Where the real money from the movie is made.
Dude, graboid and Shrieker comics? Published by Dark Horse? Apparently they aren't real, just part of a deal they had with them. But damn, these custom covers go hard. I mean, fighting Shriekers while riding a horse? Why haven't they done that? Anyway, the market is now owned by Jody, played by Susan Chong, who is Walter's niece. Despite this being our first time meeting her, she and Bert are well acquainted. She even takes care of his mail.
Shall I file it for you?
Naturally, with how successful Bert is, even receiving a special watch from the Argentinian government that updates itself by connecting to the CCM clock in Colorado through ultrasonic frequencies, she wanted in on the graboid frame with the merchandise and whatever Bert brings back. And while it's not Grady's theme park, apparently someone named Desert Jack has started his own graboid safari adventure.
I don't believe this. This is no theme park simulation here. You are in the heart of graboid country.
Jack is played by Sean Christian, and unlike Grady, he actually feels like an original character and not a substitute for Val. At first, I have to question how or why he has a business here when Jody even said that the graboids are extinct here. But apparently not, as according to his radar, which shows a wriggling worm, lol, there is at least one alive. Ah, of course. When in doubt, fake it. At least it serves as a reminder of what the graboids do and what one can do to try and avoid them. Like hopping on large rocks to avoid it grabbing you. But really, it's just his way to sell his merch.
Got monster mango, graboid grape, and for $1 extra, you can keep a souvenir glass. Glows in the dark right there.
Well, it worked. The tourists are all suckers. Well, except one guy, who rightfully says they only saw dust. He should know, as he is played by S.S. Wilson's son. Anyhow, Jack clearly wants to hog the money for himself while cheaping out on Jody, claiming that his business brings business to her, so she should supply him for free.
Probably like an increase of about approximately around 50%.
Actually, 22%. With questionable sustainability.
Seems Jody's the real business expert here. He could learn a thing or two. That night, we see an abandoned car and the sound of the ground rumbling, and a toy hula dancer dancing in response. Must be foreshadowing. Otherwise, time to meet two more returning characters, Nancy and Mindy Sterngood, once again played by Charlotte Stewart and Ariana Richards respectively. Mindy's certainly grown up to be rebellious, wouldn't you say?
I think Jack was expecting you to sew those pants, not just stick tape on them.
Mom, tape is a total statement. People like Jack and I understand that.
She's at least more talkative this time, saying she had to drop out of college due to not being able to afford tuition, and has been working in Bixby. Jack finally gets to meet Bert and seems to respect him a lot to where he wants him to be part of his safari gig.
Mom, take a picture of me with the tremor.
They're called graboids.
Although with how much disrespect he's getting, I have a feeling he won't. Especially after this photo op.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Goober.
This movie is definitely packing punches with its jokes. So yeah, Bert tells Jack to get lost and leaves. We also learn that Jack's assistant is named Buford, and he seems to really like Mindy's ass. He somehow invites her to see how he does the safari. This leads to Mindy wondering why Jack would waste his time doing this. Like maybe he just needs someone to relay his feelings to or something. But enough of that. I wouldn't do that.
When is this tour gonna be over anyway?
You don't enjoy my company, huh? You know, a man could take offense at that.
Are you about to become a murderer? Well, it doesn't matter either way, because the graboid comes and starts smothering him with tentacles. Then, as Jack and Mindy react, bam! Up comes the graboid with Buford still in its mouth.
Is he alright?
Nah, he's just playing around. Of course he's not alright, you idiot! Once again, Amalgamated Dynamics was responsible for the creature effects. and they're just as impressive as the other movies. Mindy signals Jack to toss something to distract the graboid long enough so they can get up on the rock. And as the same stupid tourist points out the obvious, that even Jack's gun is fake, Mindy takes charge by telling them to toss things so they can distract the graboid long enough to drive away, including the stupid tourist's camera. Meanwhile, Bert catches wind of the situation with his seismograph and sets off the alarm. Damn, he really is prepared. They reconvene at Perfection, send the angry, confused tourists away, while Bert contacts Miguel and tells him to
bug out ASAP, maintain a steady speed on your truck, and report to HQ at Chang's. You copy that?
And like last time, the graboids get something to snack on. Beef. It's what's for dinner. So according to Bert's instruments, there are 3 graboids in the valley. Bert wants to do something about it, but Nancy argues they can just call for help since they aren't cut off this time. But he fires back, saying they don't know how long they've been active, to where they might become shriekers.
So, what do?
We hunt them down. We wipe them out. We go at dawn.
Again, he's just unhinged at this point, and you know what? He's won me over now. His dialogue is just fun to listen to, and I'd say they're pretty quotable. Like last time, they're gonna make use of toy trucks and whatever explosives Bert is providing this time. Mindy wants to come, but Nancy forbids it. And right as the gang leaves, they are cut off by the arrival of Agent Frank Statler from the Department of the Interior. Nancy called him over, and he, along with Agent Rusk and paleontologist Dr. Merlis, are here to enforce the Endangered Species Act.
Which specifically guards the welfare of large-class desert reptilians. I'm enforcing an immediate ban on all hunting of graboids in Perfection Valley.
1. Worms are invertebrate, and I imagine this has to include the monster variety that is the graboid. 2. Are they reptiles because of what they become? Even then, that sounds far-fetched. Especially if they have no way to prevent them from spreading and breaking the ecosystem. In any event, the argument comes down to the graboids being too much of a threat to let live, let alone capture, but Frank says that if it happens, they'll evacuate the valley and seal it off indefinitely. Guess Nancy wasn't expecting that, she just wanted to help.
Eminent domain. And people call me paranoid.
Ha, I get it. Bert takes out his frustrations on a graboid target dummy before getting an alarm of graboids nearby. Time to pull out the big guns as he steps outside and... Oh man, that does not look good. Somehow it looks worse than the shriekers of the previous film.
Only Ishmael.
And yeah, if you couldn't tell from Bert quoting Moby Dick, this particular graboid is albino, meaning it is colored white, making it different from all the others we've seen before. He could just shoot it, since it's technically on his property, but I guess he has to abide by the law now. Meanwhile, Jack is shredding his business pamphlets, as he feels down for losing his business. But don't feel bad, because Frank and Rusk come in like they weren't able to do anything on their end. It seems that they'll only seize the land if they fail to capture a graboid. Seems like a small operation to capture one big graboid.
We don't have much of a budget, you know. It's not a high priority in Washington.
I'm the government, I'm the government, I'm the reason nothing works.
By the way, it's worth noting that Rusk is played by John Pappas, who was that one construction worker, Carmine, who died after his jackhammer struck that one graboid in the first movie. Guess he got promoted to being an actual character this time. Jack suggests they let Bert help them capture a graboid in exchange for letting them keep the valley. Bert isn't exactly happy about this since they'll have to work with the government, but at least he hears them out. They did bring some powerful tranquilizers.
Of course, you could squander the taxpayers' money, but I can get a graboid to swallow this with this for $49.95.
All things considered, Bert is going along with it, and he takes Jack with him since he got him into this mess. After that, Merlis comes back with the remains of graboid eggs from 300 years ago. Now, that's interesting since we've seen graboids produce shriekers, who then produce more shriekers. So where do the eggs come from to produce graboids? For now, as Jack proves he didn't do his homework of the previous movie,
Somebody getting married?
First, we make enough noise to lure one in close.
We get the return of Melvin Plug, again played by Robert Jane. He seems to be part of the real estate group trying to buy land, and brags about making a name for himself when they said he couldn't.
What the hell are you doing? You grew up here.
Exactly. I wouldn't wish this place on anybody.
And you're still a little jerk-off. Hope the graboids get you this time. Speaking of, there's one nearby. And because he was stupid enough to keep talking when Bert said not to, and his cell phone was going off, a graboid pops out of the ground near them. Melvin drives off like the little coward he is, and then Bert gets eaten? But he can't die here. He's the main character.
Hey, Bert, hang on. I'll get a rope.
A rope? He's underground inside the thing's stomach. He's beyond saving.
Houston, we have a problem.
No way. He's alive? Yep. He's in the thing's stomach with his little radio. He tells Jack to lure the graboid to his compound and drive through the front gate. The plan works as Jack lures the graboid to the compound and boom! Slams right into the concrete. Jack gets quick to shovel up the graboid, then chainsaw his way through the thick hide and orange Nickelodeon slime to pull Bert out, right as Jody arrives.
I prefer we keep this to ourselves.
On the plus side, you can now say you were swallowed alive and lived. After cleanup, the main group reconvenes as they see one graboid leaving and no sign of the other. Also, no word from the feds. That is, until they see Merlis covered in CO2 like Earl had done before. Turns out the graboid they chased turned into shriekers and murdered the others.
Damn it. With the sound. Heard this. The screaming. They were all around us. Russ. Sadler. Torn to pieces.
Well, that sucks. But hey, at least you're still alive.
Entirely effective. I'm afraid.
Well, I think I know what this calls for.
And that ain't all. Somebody killed me.
Bert tells Nancy and Mindy about the shriekers and how they need to hide their body heat. He uses satellite data to find them, and they're already multiplying. After a while, they find where they're heading and plan to get them, until a graboid shows up and wrecks their vehicle. Once again, bad effect, but there's something different about this one. Yeah, it's the same albino graboid from before, only now it's the second graboid to even have a name. And they're trapped and have no way to call for help. While they wait, Jack and Jody share a moment. Jack might not seem smart, but he does seem profound.
Don't you ever look up?
I'm busy.
Too busy to look up?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm working for myself here.
Basically, she overworks herself, and he says she shouldn't have to do so all the time. Not that he does a good job helping, since she found out he was cheating with her business. As for the albino graboid, well, besides it being the same one that Bert encountered, Miguel compares it to a goat he had.
No kids. Impossible.
Sterile, huh? Maybe that's why El Blanco hasn't turned into Los Shriekers.
Okay, albinism typically only affects melanin. It does not tend to affect anything else. But sure, for the sake of argument, let's just say for graboids, being sterile means it can't produce shriekers. Doesn't mean jack when you're still stuck. It lasts all night, and in the morning they can hear shriekers make a strange noise. They're running out of time, but that's why Miguel spent the night making a fishing pole with sticks and dental floss.
I always carry it.
They grab the radio with it and contact the girls, now inside a cardboard box. Per Bert's instructions, they make noise on the radio so they can distract Al Blanco long enough to grab some weapons. Time to go hunt some shriekers. They're definitely nearby, up to something, so Bert tosses a pipe bomb to tenderize them. Except when they go to shoot, they're not there.
No. We should see remains. They wouldn't just disintegrate.
How do you know?
I've blown them up before.
But they do see this. Well, maybe they just got a little bigger and that's how the babies grow? They find Bert's truck, having fallen off the side of a cliff and in flames. Some of the explosives slowly go off, but more importantly, they might have found what did it. What the f***? So, apparently from what Bert remembers from the last movie and his time in Argentina, the Shriekers never lasted more than 12 hours. So Jody thinks that they might keep mutating, and this is what they become? Now, like the Shriekers, they do have practical models when not in motion, while using CGI in all other instances. So far, they have the same heat sensors as their previous form, but its beak is now longer and black, with its neck and body looking even more like a raptor, and it has fins? Or wait, don't tell me this thing can do what I think it can. Did that thing seriously just take off by exploding out of its ass? Well, Val, you finally got your answer.
Can you fly, you sucker? Can you fly?
It only took 2 movies to do it, so they start shooting at it and they seem to hit it. However... No, not Miguel. This feels a bit unceremonious, given what little buildup there was to it. They radio the girls what happened while warning them to get inside, but oops, one flies up behind them. They're lucky enough to get inside before it Jack Torrances its way through the door. Hitting it with chairs only annoys it for a bit before it charges through the door. Looks like they're done for, but Mindy acts fast. She takes a large ham, microwaves it, so they can toss it. Then, while it eats, they hide in the meat locker.
Honey, I never thought you were dumb.
I don't think you said much about her. Back with the others, they examine the corpse and find that it had an egg inside. They deduce that once a graboid becomes this thing, it produces more graboids through its eggs. A 3-stage cycle. Also, 2 streams of strange-looking liquid pour out from its butt. From their dialogue, it sounds like this is how they take off and fly, with the 2 liquid chemicals touching and reacting to the air, causing it to ignite. Now, with the creature having been designed once again by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr., they based this feature on a bombardiered beetle, which also uses chemicals from its rear. But instead of creating an acid weapon to repel predators and rivals, it creates flaming farts to help it fly. It's a weird design choice, but it oddly fits given the logic of needing to spread the graboids around. Anyway, since they're out of ammo, Jody suggests they head back to base using a mattress bed to hide their heat from aerial threats. She also tries deciding on a name for the creatures.
Okay, blast offers. Or butt launchers. That's better, huh? Oh, ass blasters. How's that?
Sounds like a porno film.
It does, and guess what? They keep the name. So now we have graboids, shriekers, and ass blasters. This franchise is weird. After going down a path to ensure Al Blanco can't follow them, they return to Bert's compound and enter his basement. Don't mind the "don't tread on me" flag. We know what it stands for nowadays. Also, whatever happened to the stuffed and mounted graboid head from the second movie? As Bert tries contacting the girls, Jack tries to comfort Jody by saying she can have his supplies. Sounds like he's leaving town, but she sounds sad about it. Anyway, no luck with the girls. Also, while the compound is graboid proof, it isn't ass blaster proof. Oh yeah! What did you have up there that gave it a reason to crash through? They hide in the safe room, filled with MREs. Doesn't matter though, because the thing is trying to melt the door down. Luckily, Bert planned this as well, as he has an escape tunnel installed. Jack brings up a good point.
What happens if this thing eats your food?
Ass Blaster Blitzkrieg.
So Bert stays behind to leave a gas can in front of the door, so when the sparks hit, boom! There goes the compound! I'm gonna miss it. At least his boat lived? Why does he have that? Anyway, the girls contact them and say they caught their ass blaster. Turns out, feeding them puts them in a food coma rather than multiply. So for once, it's okay to feed them in order to stop them. Too bad he blew up his entire MRE stock. Whoops!
What kind of supreme being would condone such irony?
Well, there are those who say the marksman aims at himself, Bert.
The rest of the ass blasters arrive, and Bert thinks there's nowhere else to hide. But Jack remembers the junkyard, and to get there, they're going to use the boat that survived the explosion. The universe provided this, and a blue tarp, and they're going to write it down.
Like I said, just stick with Jack, you're going to make it back.
The steering isn't their best, but they seem to make it to their destination. And we're reminded that Melvin is the worst, as he markets selling the valley on a billboard. and Ass Blaster above them. Shoot. However, they end up killing it by knocking a fridge on top of it. The rest of them start flying in and they're forced to hide in a porta potty. In a few minutes it'll heat up and they'll go for it. So what now? Well, Bert comes up with an idea. Get them to swallow something hot and ignite the chemicals, making them explode. But how are they going to do that without a gun?
A potato gun!
What?
A potato gun!
What?
What, didn't you ever make one when you were a kid, Bert?
Actually, I just made a crossbow, like any elf kid would. The idea is to basically get a long pipe, seal up one end with a few drops of lighter fluid, and ignite it. Only instead of potatoes, they'd use flaming arrows instead. They do like the idea, so they need to grab materials to make this work, all without being seen. During the scavenger hunt, Jody almost gets caught. Luckily, one of the shipping containers has a stock of gasoline inside, for some reason. So after one chases her outside and it tries igniting its ass, dead.
I killed one! I killed one!
Woo! Way to go, girl! Don't get cocky! That still leaves 3!
I killed one.
Bert comes across Nestor's old trailer and finds his stock of booze. Honestly, he'd be fine with you using it for a good cause. Night falls and they have everything they need. They bunker down in a mobile home and start preparing their master weapon, a homemade flaming arrow gun.
But do we have a lighter?
Bert does.
How do you know?
Dude, it's because you're Bert frickin' Gummer.
Damn right I am.
Time for Ass Blaster number 2 of 4 in this group to meet its maker as they line up their flaming arrow and it hits. And there it blows.
Right! What? And that's why we're at the top of the food chain.
The next one sneak attacks Bert, so Jack has him distracted while he and Jody shoot this from the skylight window. There goes another, one more to go. This one has to go down easily. I mean, yeah, there's always the one that is smarter than the rest. That can't happen every time.
I know it. Sons of bitches are always on a learning curve.
It leaps at them and they have a good wrestling match with it. They manage to stick another lit arrow into it and they take cover right as it explodes. Guess that takes care of the threat. End of the movie now, right?
How the hell does he always know where I am?
The ultrasonic signal.
Oh right, I almost forgot about you. Turns out El Blanco was attracted to that watch Bert was given, which was sending out an ultrasonic signal that humans couldn't hear. How ironic, you were a graboid magnet this entire time. Well, Bert's caught on mattress wires, and the graboid wants food. Jack grabs the watch and lures it away long enough for Jody to free Bert. But uh-oh, I guess the ass blaster they hit with the fridge didn't get crushed to death. It's looking dire. However, Jack has a new idea. Take the tape from his pants, make a ball out of it, and attach the watch to it, so he can then toss it at the ass blaster and... Thank goodness it didn't want seconds. Time passes, new tourists come, and are greeted with the town's newest attraction, a live ass blaster. I guess as long as they keep feeding it, it won't try to escape or use its signature ass. Okay, never mind. It just can't escape. In the meantime, Nancy is on the phone, making a deal to sell the thing to put her daughter through school. Now who the hell would want to buy a frickin' fire-farting monster?
Siegfried, Roy, he's all yours.
Jack is preparing to leave for Bixby for his new job and invites Jody to hang with him. Seems they're getting along better, and Mindy is disappointed he went with Jody over her. Oh well, elsewhere it seems Bert is doing something with El Blanco, right as Melvin shows up wanting him to sell the land. But there's a reason why he asked Melvin out here. Yeah, it turns out Bert and the town agreed to make part of the valley a graboid reserve so they don't have to sell their land as long as El Blanco is alive. And as one final joke, Bert decides to leave Melvin on the rock while El Blanco hangs around. Meaning, unless he comes back for him, Melvin will either die of starvation, get eaten, or wait for El Blanco to leave so he can get to his car. Best part? he keeps insulting Bert right into the credits.
I hate you guns! You sorry, sick, paranoid, right-wing, redneck psycho, shit kicker, goddamn you, Bert! And I hate that hat!
Yeah, I know, but at least this movie doesn't delve into that, since it was all about the monsters. And well, with it shifting to mostly action and comedy, this is probably the most fun I've had with the movie so far. The whole thing felt like they knew what they wanted, knowing what limitations they had with the effects and the actors they could bring back. Unlike Grady, Jack feels 100% like his own character with a genuine arc from being a selfish con artist to a respectable friend and ally, who even hits it up with someone in the end. Bert is more unhinged than ever before, but in an entertaining way. Whether he's right or wrong on certain subjects, he knows how to make us laugh or make us impressed by his actions. Jodie is also pretty cool and a great follow-up to her uncle. As for the returning cast, their contributions tend to range from being well-developed to not so much. Miguel got screwed over big time after displaying some cunning, and Mindy got sidelined until she and Nancy got to capture one of the monsters. And Melvin was completely pointless. Well, yes, this was originally meant to be the last movie, so they wanted as many people back as possible, but they could have done more with him to make his final scene a bit more than a funny joke, but alas. In terms of the ass blasters, they're a fun addition to the graboid life cycle, and they make sense for how they can spread more of themselves around. How our heroes dealt with them was well executed, especially with how El Blanco ate the last one. It's a fitting end, all things considered, as everything falls back on a single graboid, one that will continue to live on with no way to reproduce or harm anyone ever again. Well, you'd think that, but of course its popularity led to a TV series, simply titled Tremors. This show aired on the Sci-Fi Channel in 2003 for 13 episodes. It featured Michael Gross as Bert, while other characters, like Jodie, would have replacement actors. We even get Christopher Lloyd to appear in a few episodes. That's neat. Sad it only got one season, but it is what it is. But fear not, because Tremors did not end with the TV series. Despite their intention to end the franchise with a trilogy, there would be a fourth film. Tune in next time for when we conclude the Tremors-a-thon as the legend begins.
What is it, son? I don't know, sir. But it looks like a giant...